It's extremely rare in boxing when a woman is involved in the managerial part of boxing. My next guest is one of those pioneers. Her name is Rachel Charles. She joins us here on the Zapata Brand podcast.
Coming up next on the Zapata Brand podcast, she's an aspiring author and public speaker. She's considered to be one of the best sports publicists in the business today, working with some of the most elite boxers around the world. This trailblazer is redefining the book of boxing in her own unique way. The Zapata Brand welcomes our friend, Rachel Charles.
Well, finally, Rachel, it is good to see you. We've been
Thank you for
talking here
having
for
me.
a few months.
I
and,
know.
I finally got to get you on. And one of the things that interests me most about you is obviously you're a woman in a business that is majority male. And sometimes women tend to fall back in the back of the stage.
Right.
But you, on the other hand, come from a different background. You have a very good story, and you got through this, and you came into boxing of all sports,
Right.
and from a background that you had to be tough.
I had to. Yeah.
You had to. So what I want to do is and this is Rachel Charles. Rachel, I want you to go back and start from the beginning. And I mean, you don't have to go from when you're tiny, but go back and tell people like when you first started, like who was Rachel in like elementary school?
Oh gosh, fun, naughty. all my school reports was like she talks too much. Very social. I love to talk. I would sing all the time in school. Do like Motown medleys in the science class. But yeah, I was very social, hang out with all my friends and just growing up really,
And where did you grow up for context?
I grew up in Birmingham, England, specifically Charmsley Wood, which is a town outside of the major city, but the big city, I should say. So like a suburby type working class neighborhood.
Okay, so middle class kind of.
Yeah, council estate, just regular folks. Yeah, that's where I grew up.
So when you were going through high school or elementary school through to high school, you were always the popular girl. You were talking. You were very I guess social butterfly would be it here in the States we call it.
Yeah, so that's what we call it. On my school report it said disruptive, but it's words are words.
That's a little rough, I think.
I was pretty naughty.
Okay,
pretty
well,
naughty.
but then you know what? So that would actually help you, to be honest with you, because as you go through your high school life, when did you first start to think of boxing as something that you wanted to look into, as far as being a career?
As a teenager?
As a teenager,
not at all.
Not
at all. There were kids around the way that boxed, but it wasn't anything that I thought about. I actually wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be Diana Ross's. I wanted to be a Supreme. So I thought I was going to come and sing backup for Diana Ross and the Supremes. I had always loved music. I obviously have a big musical background. But I was always singing. I was in all the school plays and definitely, but I don't really know that I had many big dreams at that, such a young age. I was just trying to get through life and survive it, the day to day, because it was a little bit, got a little rough there for quite a while. So,
and that's what I want to get to first. At such a young age, your life was kind of turned upside down a little bit. And if you want to, please go into detail of how things changed for you in your life.
Oh God! Well, I'm the only black kid in the family, so all my siblings are they're just white, not just white, but they're white. I got a black dad. So
for context, if you could, tell them who your dad is.
So my dad's name is Washington Rucker. He's a jazz musician, but he was a Motown musician in the 60s. and did very well. Is quite accomplished. He was in New York with Liza Minnelli and Robert De Niro, and he's done a lot of acting, like some really good things. And musically wise, is very accomplished. So I think as I was growing up, though, I didn't know that he was my dad. The man that lived in the house, I thought that he was my dad, and it turns out that he wasn't my dad. So that's when I found out that I had a different father, and I'm Black, and so that's kind of when things started to kind of go a little belly up. And so I had this new identity, this new dad, not knowing, I just didn't know what to quite make of it all.
So did he, was he still in the picture or no?
No, not at all. No. He came to England with Stevie Wonder in 1968. Well, I was born in 68, so somewhere, late 67, 68. And they went to my mom's hometown. So my mom was born and raised in Boston, Lincolnshire, the original Boston. Sorry, everyone in Massachusetts, but the original Boston. And Stevie Wonder came to town and my dad was the drummer, and my mom and dad met at that time, and had a situation, and very quick one, and very quick one.
All right.
And then she ended up with me. So I was raised in England, and he knew of my birth, but he didn't participate in anything to do with my upbringing or anything like that, nothing at all. So that's kind of how things started to change when I found out that I had this dad. And the dad that I had, or was raised with, I should say, great guy, nice guy. My mother had 2 kids with him. So I had an older brother from her previous marriage. Then I popped along, and then this guy she had 2 kids with. And we just lived in the house and all of that until my stepdad left. And at the age of 10, I was molested by my mom's boyfriend. So that was...
When you were in the house with your older brother and your 2 younger siblings, did you not know that you looked different?
Yeah, I did, because I used to cry. Go on, I'm sorry.
Was there any question? Did you ever question them, and there was ever a denial?
No. But I used to cry because I couldn't wash my hair and just run out and play like my sisters. They could wash their hair and go out, and it's all silky and cute, and I'm like sitting here with this freaking afro, like what the under the dryer, and I just couldn't understand it. But then in the summer, I'd turn golden brown, and they'd be red raw from sunburn, right? So. But then this lady that lived down the street, she was the one that pulled me up and said that my parents weren't my parents. And then that's kind of when it all kind of, I guess they thought that I was at an age that, they could explain everything to me. And that's what happened. So, yeah, but before that, I don't feel like I knew, no.
But somebody else told you other than your mother?
Yeah. Yeah, the lady down the street.
Rough. Yeah. That's got to be a little rough. So when you went home, you questioned your mother, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And did she
asked my
deny it at
mom.
that point?
No, not at all. They told me that night. They told me that night that I had a different dad.
That girl's a little rough to just tell someone randomly that your kid, that your parents are not yours. I mean, that's a little over, stepping over the boundaries. I believe.
Yeah. Oh,
but at
definitely.
that time, then again, at that time, and I don't know how it was in England. But at that time, it was a little different.
It was definitely different than it is now. Yeah.
Because everyone had the town dad who would like hit you. Now you go to prison. You know what I mean? So it's a little different.
Yeah.
So, and you don't mind being open about your molestation?
No, not at all.
Okay. So it is in the book. Okay. So you're molested by your mother's boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
So,
I was.
And that's at a young age.
10. I was 10.
Okay.
10.
So in England, okay, obviously there's rules, like that. Did this come out at any point?
Oh, okay. I told instantly.
Oh, instantly.
instantly.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Within probably about, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I lost track of time, but I would say within at least 10, 15 minutes of the offense happening.
How did
Told
that go over to your
immediately.
kid?
I told my mom, and that's pretty much all I remember of that interaction with her and
Okay.
I, because then I was put into the bathroom. We had like a 3-story house, and I remember my brother and I sitting in the bathroom, and you could just hear just hell breaking loose 2 floors down. The cops
Mhm.
came and took him away and all that. And I imagine. I mean, I was so young, and I don't really. I remember making statements and having to see a doctor and all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And the guy disappeared from the household. So, but I imagine, he went. I know that now. I know that he went to trial. He went to jail, and
Okay.
then I came home from school one day, and he was back in the house.
From your mom?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Holy cow. Okay. Wow. Wait, this story changes a little bit here now.
Yeah.
Okay. So at that point, there has to be some sort of tension with you and your mom. There has to be.
Oh, mate, it was horrible. That
Okay.
was it. I mean, that was, for me, I just remember coming home from school, and his whole family were in our house. And you would always have that one room in the house that no one could go in under any circumstances except for
Mhm.
special
Oh, yeah.
occasions,
Yep.
right? And they were there, and I just remembered looking, thinking, why are they in the like, why are these people in my house? And then the guy walked in the room. I'm like, oh my God,
What was, what was,
terrified.
yeah. Well, okay. So what was the initial reaction with you guys?
I just ran out the room. I ran out the room, ran down the stairs. My mother chased after me, brings me back in the house. And it was just trying to like smooth it all over.
Yeah.
I don't really have any kind of, reasoning as to what she was thinking at the time. I just know what I was thinking at the time. So,
Okay. This bugs me a little bit, to be honest
yeah,
with you. It does. Bugs me.
yeah,
And it does because your mother is choosing somebody over their own daughter.
yeah.
Okay, so it's not either way that you only have one mother. So you could have a different father as you had a stepfather or whatever, but you only have one mother, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and one father, but the father wasn't in the picture. So
Yeah.
do you think it was the fact that your mother, and what do you know how old she was? Was she in her like 40s about?
She was probably in her early 30s. I think she's like 21 years older than me, or 22 years older than me. So she would have been in her early 30s with
Okay.
four kids at the time,
And that's what I'm getting at. Women tend to, when situations arise like this, they tend to kind of grasp at anything,
Mm-hmm.
even if they think that it's not right. Like, if something happens and you have a breakup, a divorce, or what have you, they try to date right away because they feel unsecure of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I found. I'm not saying there's no medical evidence of that, but I'm saying it always seems that way. You ever notice that? Whether a
Yeah.
woman's beat or whether a woman's abused or verbally abused, they tend to go back because it's a
Yeah.
safe haven for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And unfortunately, in this situation, there was a molestation. Obviously, he went to jail, but now he's back in the house. You leave. Where do you go
Yeah.
from there?
I just, like, I just, it was horrible living in that house after that. All the, it was just a different household, and I just looked at my mother like the ultimate betrayal.
Mhm.
I have a big thing about loyalty. I'm pretty loyal. I'm actually not pretty loyal. I'm very loyal. And it was just like I was on my own. So I'm like, okay, well, this is it. I'm on my own. I can't even turn to my mother. My dad lives 6,000 miles away over here. So there was no one to look after me. It was really, really rough. It was
Did
really
you
rough.
did you ever get in contact with your stepfather? I know you said he was a good guy.
No, he left and got married again, and his wife, she wasn't really, into the whole 4 kids thing. She's like, you got 2, so handle the 2 you've got and
She wasn't
forget the
having it, huh?
rest. Yeah, she wasn't having it.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well.
yeah, me and my brother, we were just kind of, on
Okay.
our own.
So you
You
two
know,
are on your own, but you still lived in that house?
I still lived in the house. I had to. I was 10. I had nowhere to go.
Oh,
No
why
one
not, why
to.
not go down the street with the lady who told you about your parents? Ask
Oh
her.
God, I know, right?
I mean,
Yeah, there
what
was
the hell? She's the one who
nowhere to
started this
go.
whole thing. She started this
Yeah,
whole nonsense.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh,
Nowhere to
um,
go.
so you had no place to go.
No, no,
So as a kid,
no.
where does that leave you? Like, what were you thinking?
Lost, abandoned by my dad, abandoned by my stepdad, abandoned by my mother, abandoned by authorities that should have been looking out for me and they weren't. I mean, we just lived in a neighborhood of like you were just left to it's whoever survives, and
Hmm.
it was just that. It was just surviving, trying to have a childhood, but you're different, it's automatic. The minute I told my mother, I automatically felt like dirty and just like that I was to blame, and all those feelings that there are. I think it's the same feeling that a lot of survivors have, and
Hmm.
it was just really rough. It really was. I just used to be with my friends and just we just kind of carried on living,
Now,
but it was always kind of there though.
okay, over your head. But now, when you said you would hang out with your friends and what have you, were you now starting to get to be a little bit wild at that time? And that comes with the territory.
Yeah, but not wild as just crafty, naughty. But we all were though, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So not any more so than before the situation happened. You know what I mean? I think there was more of a resentment towards my mother for sure, you know. Um and that was pretty much probably what it really was, just would carry on going to school. And I came to America. So the first time I ever came to America was in 1979, which is when that happened to me. They put me on a plane and sent me to America, and I met my dad for the first time, which was horrible.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Now
oh
wait a
my
minute.
God.
Wait a second. Now, this story is getting very wild. This is like
Yeah, we're gonna have to
an
do this in like volume
no, but this is
series.
like an A&E story that like you don't
Yeah,
think could happen, but it actually
yeah,
did happen. So now you're telling me at 79 is when you get the molestation happens.
yeah,
They throw you on a plane
yeah,
to go to the United States, a different country,
yeah,
to meet your father, who you haven't met, and you're hoping that things go well
yeah.
as a how old? 10 years old?
10 years old.
So
I just
where
turned 11, I guess, because I was at 11 in July and I came in August for my
okay.
first meeting with this strange man.
So where's the accountability on any part of this from the government protection
Nowhere,
agencies? None.
nowhere,
So now
none.
you're going to meet. So now this is where I'm going with this. So now you've already been molested by a man who was a strange man. Obviously, he was your mother's boyfriend. But now you're going to meet another strange man in your
Yeah.
life. So you must have been, number one, mortified,
Mm-hmm.
or number two, scared to death.
Yeah.
Number three, what do you talk to him about?
Nothing. The craziest is I got off the plane at
Hmm.
LAX, and I was an unaccompanied minor, so they bring you off the plane and the whole
Yeah.
bit. And I just remember coming down the escalators and seeing this guy, and I'm like, I freaking hate his guts already.
Really?
Instantly. And I think if
Why?
you were to speak to him, he'd probably say the same about me. There was just this ball of energy between the two of us that was just it was just too late. I was already damaged. He wasn't around. I'd built up this resentment. Where were you? Where was my mother? Like it was just you can't be my dad now. So I just built up this resentment. Now that I'm older, I understand what it was. But also for him, I just don't think he was really planning on his one night stand showing up on his doorstep for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think anybody plans on that. We're kind of
Yeah,
we're kind of
yeah,
like, hey, what happened here? But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
excuse me. So how did you? So take me back to when you get off the plane, you talk to him.
yeah,
Where do you guys go? Is it just like, hey, come to my house, come see
yeah,
what you missed?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so there's immediate tension there.
yeah.
Does he have a woman in the house?
He's got a wife. Yeah, his wife. He was so obviously he must have been about 10 years in with her. Actually, I think he married
Okay.
her right when I was born. Nice lady. You know, she's since
Mhm.
passed away, but she was nice enough, I should say. Not necessarily warm and cuddly. Again, you know, your husband's mistake is
Yeah.
standing in your
No,
living
I no, I
room.
agree.
It's got to
I
be
agree.
hard. I don't even know, you know. Yeah. So I think we're all just kind of forced into a situation that I actually don't think would have happened had the incident happened in my house. I don't think I would have came over. I think it was throw her on a plane, take her to Disneyland, and she'll be all right. That's really what I think it was. It wasn't send me
Mhm.
my daughter. I'm going to take care of her.
Okay,
You
so your
know,
dad did. So your dad, when your biological dad
yeah.
did say, bring Rachel to the United States.
Yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, give the kid needs a holiday.
Okay, so
And it's
he did.
about time
So
she met, yeah.
did he know about what had happened?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what he knew, but I,
Okay.
I do know that he knew. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
At
all
that
right.
time, I didn't know what he knew, you know? I mean, I had no control. It's not like I can call
No,
him or, you know, so I don't know what he knew at that time. So
but it was
it
weird that they
was,
would put you on a plane at 11 years old and just say, "Hey, go over here." You know,
yeah,
whether he had any involvement in that or not. I mean,
yeah,
meaning he knew what was going on and said, "Hey, just bring her over here." Still,
yeah,
he doesn't know you. You're sitting here,
yeah.
trying to find out who your dad. See, I didn't see my dad for 30 some years. So
Wow.
I know when you like, what do you talk about?
Yeah, exactly. And what do you call them? I didn't know what to call him.
I didn't know what to call him either. I just said
Yeah.
Joe. I didn't know what to say. Like, what
I
do you
just said,
say?
I was just like, hey, like, oi. Because in England, we go, hey, oi, you know. So that's all I would say. You know, it was
Or you just wait
really
till he looks at
weird.
you. You kind of wait till he looks
Yes.
at you. Like, oh, hey, you know what I mean? That's the thing. We would do that
Yeah.
because you don't know
Yeah.
what to say. It's very awkward,
It's
and it's not
very
like.
awkward.
And the other thing too, I don't get either is why your dad wouldn't come to you and be like, "Listen, Rachel, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What would be so hard about that?
I know.
I'm
But you know,
sorry.
but right. But see, I think the thing is that now that we're older, you know, we see things differently. And like I look at my dad, he was born in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I think he's like one of maybe 7 or 8 kids. So I think that the way that he came up is a hard man. He's a very hard man. It's like education and this and that is very imposing. And I just don't know that he knew how to speak to me. Obviously, he had a daughter,
Mhm.
an older one. He's got an older daughter, but you know, I just think that it was just wrong, the wrong time. It was not. This was. I should have got off the plane running, daddy, daddy. He's like,
Well, well, you would do that.
he's like, hey, hold on a minute.
Do you think maybe you should have waited?
I don't know that I had a choice. You know, I just think that
Okay.
they all just, you know, was just like, what we're going to do with this kid? We've got
No,
to,
I'm saying, what about
you
your
know,
mom? Don't you think she should have thought of waiting?
she should have thought about a lot of things, though, shouldn't she?
Good
Really,
point.
you
Good
know what I
point,
mean?
Rachel.
It's like,
Good
it's
point.
like, it's like, lady, now is
We're
not
giving
the
her a little
time
too
to
much
be
credit here.
thinking, right? It's like,
Thinking has gone out the window about
I
a
think
year
so.
before that.
All rationale is gone. You know?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right out the
yeah,
window there.
yeah,
That's my
yeah,
fault on that. I should
yeah.
should have thought of that before. But so now you go to the United States first time Disney World. This is going to be great, and it's a
Yeah,
dud.
it's a
What
dud.
happened? So what happened?
You know, I just think it was just, I think my dad just didn't know what to do with me, and I didn't know what to do with him, you know. And it was a vacation. It was 2 weeks. I went home, and that was that, you know. So
Mhm.
nothing really got accomplished. We certainly didn't bond, and yeah, I just think it was just a bit of a waste, really. You know,
Mhm.
it's a bit of a waste of time because even though, yeah, it may have taken my mind off of what was going on at home, I still
Right.
had to go home. And this man was still putting me on a plane to go home. You know, he didn't know that the guy was back in the house at that time, but still, you know, there was no appropriate adult anywhere in the vicinity of me.
Okay. So with having no direction, were you turning towards education? Were you turning about just getting out of this area? Where was your direction? There had to be a why for Rachel Charles. There had to be a why.
Well, when I came back, I was still young, obviously, just still growing up, and then I got pregnant when I was 16. So I had my daughter when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just kind of that happened, and then it was all just like growing, school. There was no direction. But again, back in that day, no one in our neighborhood really, or not many, had any direction. It was just you just got to survive growing up,
You do know that path that you had there, where you were molested as a kid and you have a kid young, that's very common.
It is very common. It's textbook. It's because absolutely textbook.
You're looking for someone to love you unconditionally.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that, like, I remember them saying, oh, she's either going to be promiscuous, do drugs, alcohol. I've never drank. I don't smoke. I've never done drugs. I'm not promiscuous, trust me.
Well, you said you were naughty, not me. You said that, not me.
I was naughty in an English way, not with boys.
All right.
But no, I was just crafty, but not like that. But I didn't really follow. One page out of the textbook, right? But then again, all the girls in the neighborhood, everyone was having kids. Everybody there was the teenage pregnancy rate. Yeah. Oh, it's huge. Really? There was girls younger than me having babies. So it was very common.
What's going on in England?
It's in the water.
Jesus.
It was just kind of like, you don't think about going to college, it was never, it's never presented to you like that.
Oh, so college isn't as big as it is here.
It is, but not in our neighbor, not with our class of people. You know what I mean? College was for the posh kids. So, it's like you go to school. I left school at 15 because that's the age you leave when you're 16, but my birthday fell, so. You leave school, you either go get a job in the factory or whatever, or you have a kid and sign on for welfare. Mm-hmm. And I met my daughter's dad. I met him in Woolworths, of all places.
Woolworths, popular sport.
Right, yeah, they sell everything, even deadbeat dads, right? It's like on aisle 10, right?
How much did that cost? How much did that one cost you? On sale.
Man, 30. So far, it's 38 years worth of, a child.
Hey, it's the gift that keeps giving all year round.
That's exactly it, right? So, I just kind of I just fell into that path. There was no talk of like, bring Rachel to America, none of that. My dad and I, we just absolutely didn't have a relationship. The state gives you an apartment. So I got my own flat and that was it. I was a single mom at the age of 17.
No help other than the flat.
No help other than welfare. No help from my daughter's dad. Nothing. He disappeared.
Oh, and he's from your town or no?
Yeah. He
just disappeared.
Just disappeared. To this day, pretty much. Well, that's when when I went to sign on, they were like, well, they asked, well, how'd you get pregnant? So, I met him at a party. I don't really know his name, and all that. And then it's
kind of an obvious answer how you got pregnant. I just, if they don't know that.
Right. And then we all just, pretty much there's some guy out there named Paul Smith that's responsible for probably 1 million babies because no one really gives the dad's name because you don't get your money. They'll go after them for the money and they're not going to give you the money. So you give a BS name and then they give you the money. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you don't have a job or anything, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Oh, because I thought the state would just take it right from him, or
it's not like it is. It is now over there, but how it is over here. But no, it wasn't like that back in the. I had my daughter in 1985, so that was quite a while ago. Things have changed, obviously, and it just, I think, he just didn't want to be found, and he was gone. So that was that.
Okay, so now here you are, 17 years old or 16, going on to 17. 17 years old, your own flat, with your daughter. How was your relationship with your mother at this point?
Horrible. And we just lived, a couple of blocks away from each other. But it was just horrible because she'd got a boyfriend by then. One of my other sisters had a baby. My brother had a couple of kids. So, there was a lot going on in the house. But,
there's a lot going on in that town.
There's a lot going on in the town. But, it's just, it was just, I just didn't get along. We just didn't get along. Everyone would just argue, fight, it's just.
How about your siblings? Did you get along with your siblings?
They were okay. Yeah, they were all right. It was, I was always, oh, my dad's famous. My dad lives in America. My dad's better than your dad, So it was like the battle of the dads. And of course, I'm going to win because my dad was famous and lived in America.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all just kind of interacted, whatever, but it wasn't warm and cozy at all.
Okay, so when do you decide at that point to move? I mean, you like in your life, you have to say, like I said, you needed a why. So those nights where you're home alone in your flat, I'm sure you're not going out partying and whatever. At what point do you say and sit down and look at yourself and say, where am I going?
So yeah, that's a good segue actually, because my dad's best friend was the percussionist for Neil Diamond. So every time Neil Diamond came to Birmingham in concert, I would go and see my uncle. So
was that him?
That's Vince. That's my husband.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my husband. But I hate that picture.
Well, it's a good picture. It's up there.
I'm holding alcohol. I'm so like, I never drank it, but it made me hold it. But anyway, happiest day of my life, right? So my uncle came to Birmingham and he had Vince with him. So I went and we hung out for the day, and then Vince and I were reacquainted because I'd kind of known him loosely over the years. And at this point, when they came, I was 21. And my daughter, Georgia, she was like 3, whatever, something like that, 3 going on 4, something like that. And Vince and I got reacquainted, and we started talking that night. I went to the concert, and he pointed his drumstick at me from the stage. And I was like, that's it. This is it. My life literally just changed right now, And it's kind of weird, actually, because that's how my mum met my dad at a Stevie Wonder concert. And he looked down at my mum from the stage and was like, wow, you're it.
So you were the chosen one at that point.
I was the chosen one. I've always felt like that. I was actually going back. Did I feel different? I always felt like I was the chosen one. And even now, later on that I'm older, I definitely feel like I was tapped for something. Like, you're going to go through this, you're going to go through this, and you get through this and something greater is on the other side. I really believe that, because I know people that have gone through lesser situations that are, not doing well, and I feel like I'm pretty decently strong. I have my moments. But yeah, so Vince, that was it. We would talk every week. He came back to America. They were making an album, and he goes, as soon as it's done, I'm going to have you come to America. And he called me one day and he goes, I've got this house. I'm like, yeah, I'm packing my bags. I got the phone like this. Yeah. I'm already packing because I knew what he was going to say.
Okay, so you knew at that point you're going to move with him.
I'm moving to America, yeah.
To start your life, and you're willing to just leave everything behind.
Gone. I shut the door. I kid you not. I shut the door on my apartment, my flat, and that was it. I was gone. So
never turned back.
Never went back. I think I've been back maybe 6 times in 33 years. Yeah.
So that chapter of your life was done at that point.
I was done with Birmingham. I was done with England, done with my neighborhood. I was gone. So
you're gonna have a whole new life, and you were only in the United States once, correct?
Twice as a kid, yeah, twice.
Twice as a kid.
A month collectively.
Okay, so that's really not much time to get used to the culture.
Yeah.
So when you come over there now in England, where you were there many black people?
Yeah, There were,
Okay, so
yeah.
that wasn't as culture shock to you
No, that
as
wasn't
it
a
was
culture shock.
here, because
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
we have mix here.
yeah.
So when you get over here, where do you land? What
Here in
state?
LA, right down
In
the
LA?
street from where I'm at now,
Oh,
West
no shit.
Hills. Yeah, so I've lived in the same neighborhood this whole time. And Vince had a beautiful 4-bedroom house, swimming pool in the back garden. I'm like, this
Boy,
is,
you hit the lotto.
I
You hit
landed.
the lotto.
Yeah, I did. I did. And it was great, you know, I mean, and I was like, wow, you know, like this is marvelous, but it's going to be marvelous for my daughter as well, you know. So
Mhm.
it gave her a really good chance because she was little. She was only 5 at the time.
Right.
And yeah, we just set about, you know, living and getting climatized and all that kind of stuff. And Vince was in the studio, and it was quick. It was a very fast-paced life, and it was very from rags to riches. You know, I could go
Okay.
to the grocery store and buy. I didn't have to look at the price tag. I didn't have to steal deodorant and cheese
Oh,
because
jeez.
those are the most expensive items. You know, so you know,
So
I could do that.
did you ever feel did you ever feel like this wasn't real? When
Yeah.
you know
Oh, yeah. Pinch me moments. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I came over, um, so I came in August. It was always an August thing that I would always come over. The two times when I came when I was a kid was August. But I came in August 15th, 1990. And then before we knew it, you know, I was getting married. Um, and going private jet, bodyguards, Madison Square Garden, this place, that place, all on
wow.
tour with Neil Diamond and Vince and the whole thing. It was pretty wild, pretty wild.
So you went from going barely getting you were on welfare there for,
Hmm.
you know, a 17-year-old single mom
Yeah.
to now flying over the pond, they call it the pond, into the United States, and you
Yeah,
go into a 4-bedroom beautiful home touring all over the world,
yeah.
and now you're still not into, to me when I look at that, I still think that Rachel had still not found her why.
I'd have, you know, and I think that the whole Vince situation, that was a crazy time, you know. He was an alcoholic, which was, you know, he's dead. He's
Mhm.
long dead now, but he was an alcoholic at the time, and you know, yeah, all that comes along with alcoholics, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's just, yeah, it's, oh god. Anyway, so
Well,
I'm trying to come back to that, but after all of that, you know, I mean, I think that the why was just like I just feel like when Vince and I, because we ended up breaking up and he ended up passing away,
mhm.
and I just got a job because I was like, well, I need a job. So I started getting, you know, just a normal job. I went to the mall and got a job at Nordstrom's. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, I got a better job and a better job and ended up in Beverly Hills. And all these things are happening. And you know, it all kind of led me, I've gone down so many different avenues. Some have been amazing and some have been horrible. You know, I've fallen down quite a few times and had to rebuild, you know, but um, and then I got into boxing. So it was like, holy moly, maybe this is why. This is my why,
Well, here,
you know?
excuse me. Here's why, and if you don't mind, I'd like to get back to Vince for a second.
Hmm.
Your relationship with Vince, and you touched on it a little bit. So I want to just go backtrack a little bit here. So you have the issue with your mom, the issue with your stepfather. You have this issue with your father. You go down with Vince. Now I'm making a timeline here. And then Vince is an alcoholic. And you said, you know what comes with that? Was there violence and abuse in the marriage at that time?
Oh, yeah, lots of it. Lots of it.
I kind of figured that. And I
Yeah,
just,
lots
and
of it.
the reason why I say that is because it just seems like, you know how you say you're building your scars up to make yourself stronger and you get the calluses. All this stuff that you're saying is now putting you in a position to embark on a career into boxing where you have to have that strong mental and physical makeup.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I say, like, I was tapped, and like, this is, the amazing stuff is going to come. And I feel like, had I not have gone through all of the things that I've gone through in my life, I wouldn't have lasted one day in boxing. It's just impossible. You've really got to have, a good pair of ghoulies, like, you got to have a good pair to be able to put up with all that comes with boxing. And I've been there, done it. I've literally walked through hell and back. I really have. And lots of devastating situations. They've all been devastating. The situations that I've been in have changed my life in one way or the other, and they've been crippling, and there's been more tears than laughter, throughout my life. But it's taught me to be strong and be resilient, and I can stand there with the toughest of them and still, be one of the last standing. Is that's how I look at it.
Well, you have a 100% success rate because you're still here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So everything that you've done has prepared you for this. So
yeah,
let's get into boxing. How did Rachel Charles wind up in the craziest sport on this earth, boxing?
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And so my friend was hanging out with James Toney. So at the time, Vince was not long dead. I had lost my job. I had a great job in Beverly Hills, a really, really good job, making loads of money. And I lost my job, lost my car, lost my apartment. Everything just went belly up. And my friend was hanging out with, I was staying with my dad at the time, who ended up saying that I had a 2-week reprieve. I'm like, 2 weeks? I got a kid, like, help me out, but he wouldn't help me. So that's a whole nother situation. But my friend was hanging out with James Toney. So she goes, hey, come with me. I know this boxer. So I was like, okay, whatever. And I figured, well, I'll go. Maybe he's got a friend, I didn't have a boyfriend. I wasn't dating or anything. So I just went purely because he might have had a friend. So but I know, right? But anyway, you got to keep your eye out, right?
I know.
So then I went to the James was at remember Billy Blank's?
Yes.
So we went to Billy Blank's studio because that's where James would train. Yeah, he would train with Billy Blank's. And then Mr. Arthur, who has since passed away, was James's manager. He would do classes at Billy Blank's.
Yeah.
So anyway, I end up at Billy Blank's, and I kid you not, this thing was running towards me and just like a rabid dog, right? I'm like, what the hell is that? And it was James, and he came right into we were nose to nose. I didn't blink. And then he went, I like you. Come with me. And then that was it. That was literally it. He took me to meet Dan Goosen. And Dan Goosen hired me on the spot because he liked my accent. And he was like, I need you to answer the phones. I was like, okay. And I'm so bougie. I'm like, I don't answer phones. Do you know who I am? I don't do phones. And then the other half of me was like, bitch, you're broke. That's the freaking phone, right?
You need a job.
Yeah. So I ended up doing that.
What was James's problem? Why was he running at you? Just want to run you off?
Because that's what he does. It's like a dog, how dogs will come and sniff around and bark at you to see if you're gonna, and that's exactly what he did. And probably because I was a woman, he didn't know I was British at the time. So then when I answered him back, he was like, oh my God. So we hit it off instantly. I'm like, he's disgusting and I love him. Who is he? So we ended up working together, and he took me to Dan Goosen. And Dan Goosen hired me, like I said, right there and then. And I was answering the phones at Goosen, and then they were looking for a publicist. I heard Dan saying, like, we need to hire a publicist. And I was like, well, I can do that, because I used to do some of it for Vince. and I've got a pretty good gift of the gab, you know.
Oh yeah.
So you know, and I love to talk to people. I love meeting people. So I was like, well,
Mhm.
I can do that. That's very easy. When we were on the road with Vince, I'd be, you know, Madison Square Garden or whatever venue we were at, and I'd be talking to the press about my husband, but they're all there to see Neil Diamond. They'd be like, Rachel, like Neil's the star, and I'm like, yeah, well, whatever, you know. But so I kind of knew how it all worked, you know, because I would
Mhm.
watch the publicist when we were on the road,
Yep.
and I went into Dan Goosen, and I was like, I can do that job. I can do the publicist. I was only there for not even, I don't even think it was a week. I didn't even have my first paycheck yet, put it that way. And he was just like, do you know anything about boxing? I'm like, no, but I can learn. And he was like, all right, then go on, see what you can do. And that was it. Never looked
So
back.
so your first job is working for Dan Goosen, and that's for Goose and Tudor Promotions
Hmm.
or Ten Goose Productions.
Yeah,
Um,
Goose and Shooter.
Goose and Tudor, yeah. How was your first initial, I would say, meeting with the press? Now you're a publicist. You're meeting with the press. The
Yeah,
press can be tough.
yeah.
What was your initial meeting? Did you now, mind you, you're coming in here tough.
Yeah. Oh, I
So
came in swinging.
yeah. So how was
Yeah.
your first initial meeting, and did you get any backlash because you were a woman?
Oh God, no, they love me. They're like, come on, because they thought I was cute, right? So I'm
Mhm.
just like, oh, what's this? What's this? And I just had this, I just got this bouncy energy. You know what I mean? I love to have a laugh. Don't take anything too seriously. Get your job done, but just enjoy it, you know. And these
Mhm.
guys were all old and stuffy. And but I think that they saw me as like, at first I think they thought, oh God, who's this little Tootsie Pop, you know?
Right.
Let's see how long she lasts. But then there was a guy named John Bay Rudy, a big time PR guy. And he was like, "Oh my God, she's a lifer. She's going to be here for the longest." And then he swore everyone to secrecy. Do not tell her what I just said about her, you know, because it was. But I didn't really get like hazed or anything like that. You know, I mean, some of them would say stupid shit, but excuse my language.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, um, but um, but I'm quick. So they'd say something and I'd be right back at them. So they were like, oh, okay, she's different. And I used to sit in press row and they'd tell me, you know, how the fight was won, what punch was thrown, what's this, what's that. And I got a great education from some of the best people out there. The guys,
Mhm.
they were fine. It was the women that I had a hard time with, the other female PR women. I think I was the youngest, certainly the
Right.
cutest, if I might say. And it's not really about being cute, but compared to these
Yeah, I will tell
freaking,
you. I will tell you that does go a long way. It really
it does
does.
go a long way, right? But you know what,
I
though?
don't know
It's,
why women. I don't know why women don't use it more. I mean, if I was a
yeah.
pro, I'd use it a whole time.
Right. You know what, though? It's funny because Dan Goosen used to say that. He'd be like, Rachel, if you were, you know, obese or whatever, you know, they wouldn't be looking at you. And I'm like,
Yep.
well, they are. So, you know, like these guys are looking, thinking, and I cut down real quick. There was this one guy, I won't say who he is, but
Hmm.
he's looking at me like, I want to get in your knickers. And I'm looking at him like, I need to get my kid in your paper. How are we going to do this? And I keep my knickers on. So it's a really good mental game of chess that you got to
Mhm.
play with these guys, right? But you don't want to. I certainly wouldn't tease somebody and lead somebody on to get a story, but that's when you have to be strong, you know, and find other ways to make it happen. And I can say that I still had my knickers on. Never had to compromise
I don't
to
know.
get a
No, I
story.
don't know, Rachel. You got that naughty reputation there. I
Well, I
don't
am
know.
naughty, but no, definitely not for a story. Trust me, we'd be on bloody Oprah, you know. But no, but yeah, it's really interesting because I think if you are, you know, good look, you're good looking anywhere. I mean, and trust me, people are probably going to go, "God, she looks like a freaking broom." But back then, this was 20 years ago, right? So I was like 20 pounds lighter and, you know, whatever. But anyway, but no, I think if you do have something different, people gravitate towards it anyway. So
Mhm.
of course, and being a woman in a men's business, and I'm the only black woman
Mhm.
that got to the level that I did when I did, right?
Right.
And all the others were like, you know, just normal women. They were
Right.
horrible, horrible, you know, because they're so bitchy, you know. But I never fell into a clique. I never fell into the Mean Girls Club. I've always been on my own. I do what I do, and I do it on my own, and that's it, you know. And I always just kind of got the job done. So I've been pretty lucky that way.
So once you are you now set with James? That he's your guy, and at this time James was pretty much top of the world at that point when you were there in the early 90s.
James was on fire. He just fought Holyfield, because I met him at the early 2000s. So Holyfield, Vasily Girov, John Ruiz, he won the title. So yeah, James was absolutely on fire. But then we had all the others. We had Andre Ward, straight out of the Olympics. We had Chrissy Ariola. We had Paul Williams, who is a favorite of mine.
Paul Williams,
or the Punisher.
I always thought Paul Williams would get that fight with Mayweather, and it never materialized.
It never happened. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that was definitely,
that would have been that was one I wanted to see. I really want.
Yeah.
I thought Paul Williams had the style to beat him because he was so big. He was so big for 47.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, getting to the car accident kind of ended that.
Yeah, great kid.
How was it working with Andre Ward?
Andre Ward was interesting because he came in to the pros and he had a very clear path of an idea of the path that he was going to take. And he's always God first, everything else God, family first, and everything else comes after. And he wasn't really caught up in the whole media circus and how boxing can be a circus. And Dan Goosen was like, P.T. Barnum. I mean, he was aside from Don King, there was Dan, and he was loud and he was flashy and he was, a big person in the room, and he liked things to be big and flashy. And Andre didn't that was not his thing. He had a job to do, he had a fight to win, and that was it. He'd go home. So he was different. He was very different compared to some of the other kids that I had. That used to love that. Was
that why there was a falling out with them?
That was after me.
Okay.
But that was after me. But being that I was with Andre for the first 3 years of his career, I'm not surprised how things went the way that they did. I just think it was probably, it wasn't really a good mix, I think, So.
Okay. What's your, give me some stories about Chris Ariola.
Oh, the nightmare. He's a great guy. I love Chris.
Chris
is he's a good guy. I mean, we were just always laughing. He was just such a good person. He really was. He was lovely. I never had any problems with him. He loved doing press. It was always where I needed him to be. He never gave me any problems. James was the one that gave me the most problems. Everybody else was easy after James, But right. Chrissy Ariola, he was just very humble, just a really good guy. Yeah.
Was James difficult to handle because he didn't trust many people?
James is just a pain in the ass. He still is. So, he really is. And he is.
Do you see James?
I saw James practically every day up until about a year and a half ago, because he was in the gym that I worked for this guy that owned a gym, and then he had a podcast studio next door.
Okay.
So James was working. James would do classes at night in the gym, and Buddy McGirt would have the gym during the day. So I would see James, but James was just he was just difficult, just because he just wanted to be. It was lovely. He could be lovely, and then he couldn't be lovely. He was awful. It was a pain in the ass. Really, really, really was. I learned a lot though.
But what would set him off? Anything,
whatever. If he could, at the time, James was on top of the world, right? And whatever James wanted, James got. That's pretty much where we were at with him. And he has this, he's so brash, and he's just like, he'd walk in and just pick up a water bottle and squirt it right in your face, or he sent me a gift gorgeous wrapped box, big box, and it was full of dead fish, trout, dead fish. And it was wrapped in the most gorgeous wrapping paper with a big bow on the top, and had it delivered to the office. The guy comes in, I'm looking for Rachel Charles, can you sign here? And I'm just like, okay, 2 seconds later, James walks in and he gives himself away. So I'm like, the math isn't mathing, right? There's something going on. And then after a whole back and forth about opening this present, I opened it and he's like laughing, and I'm throwing the box at him. He's wearing a floor length chinchilla in the summer. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, James kind of went off the rails a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has to do with the damage he's taken.
Probably.
I mean, it's unfortunate that we're in a sport where you see towards the end of your career that the frontal part of your brain, it gets hit consistently, and that is the decision making and the reasoning part of your brain.
Yeah.
It's never good.
And it's such a shame. It's such a shame because I actually think that he's a decent guy, but I feel like he's his own worst enemy, He's his own worst enemy. But then I also think that boxing just kicks you out when you're no longer viable. They're just done with you, and that's it. There's no aftercare, there's no support system, no nothing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you come in, depending on your financial circumstances, but for the most part, you're fighting to get out of, wherever. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of this great career, he's in the Hall of Fame, but what else? What's so, but he's his own worst enemy, but he is a good guy. I mean, he is. But I've seen him do good things and I've seen him do shitty things, really, to be honest.
I think boxing, something that you touched on there, where you say they it's the only sport you could come in with zero experience and be a manager, zero experience and be a promoter.
Yeah.
The two probably worst kind of people in boxing, and that's not because they're the smartest in boxing. And if you're not sharp as a fighter, because you're a fighter, you fight. Yeah. You can't worry about the financials, what you're getting paid, what you're not getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being around a lot of fighters, there's sometimes I say, hey, you might not want to sign that.
Yeah.
And there's no protection there.
None.
They claim the Ali Act. The Ali Act gets looped around by doing consulting. It's just an advisor. It's not fair to the fighters.
Yeah.
You're on the inside of it. You've been on the inside of it. Do you feel there's anything that anybody can do, whether it be the government or whatever, to help kind of prop up some of these guys? Because you're seeing tail end of fighters now that you'd worked with in the 90s and 2000s. Do you feel there's any way that anything can change other than the promoters and the managers somehow making, similar to what UFC does, a league? And they have to work with each other.
Well, they have to work with each other, but you know what? I mean, I've sat in front of many, many, many kids, and that's again like what's Rachel's why. I've gone through all the shit that I've gone through, so I can come and tell these kids what it's like on the other side, right? And I think that I always kind of say, like, you're trying to tell a kid that might not be the sharpest, business wise, right? He's a boxer, he's got a craft, and he's really good at it. That's all he knows. And what he also knows, though, is like, I'm living in crappy circumstances. I live in a shitty neighborhood. I want to get out of it. This is what's going to get me out of it.
Right.
So to be in front of that kid and say, hey, listen, put some money away for a rainy day. They're looking at you like, I've had my freaking rainy days. What are you on about? Like, I'm not, so it's hard for them to even think about, I might lose one day, or I might get injured, and then there's nothing left for me, right? So it's really, really, really hard to penetrate that, because I've been at fights where these kids show up in a pair of Tidal shorts, or, some, just normal wear, clothing and whatnot, or just the cheapest basic boxing equipment that their money at the time could buy, and then they make a few pennies. You see them next time, they got the Gucci belt, they got the Dior this and that, and you're like, oh my God, what have you done with your money? So but I think that it's, I was just reading the other day actually, because California has a pension, but you have to have fought 70 plus rounds within the state of California, and when you retire there's a pension. I don't think there's one anywhere else, but that pension fund actually just got busted because they weren't calling you going, hey, George, you did over 70 rounds, we owe you a check. And I guess they just paid out over $200,000 to Sugar Shane Mosley. That's a lot of freaking money. So there's a lot of people not even telling you.
So
what
you're saying it got busted, meaning what? Caught?
They got busted for not telling people that they were owed a check.
I thought you meant busted meaning broke. I was going to say
no.
Okay,
no.
So busted meaning they weren't paying people.
They weren't paying people their pension, because sometimes they're the fighter. Like if you sign in California, they will tell you when you sign, if you fight X amount of rounds within the state of California, at the end of it, you get a check. But by the end of it, these fighters have forgotten all about that. So they need people to remind them of it. I actually sent the article to a kid that I do know fights quite often out here and said, keep a log of your rounds, because this is going to, you'll be able to get a check. But I think that because the promoters, no one, they're not working together. I feel like they don't care about the boxer. They don't care. They literally don't care, right? Most managers, it's like, whatever, you get a lot of managers that just like boxing and want to get into it as a hobby, and there's no, I don't know. I think Joe DeGuardia tried to band a bunch of people together at one point. I used to work for him a couple of years ago. I like Joe.
He's a very good guy. He's an attorney. So I think he would have the wherewithal to say, this is how we got to get together. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, he did. I believe that he tried to get everyone to come to the table and try to implement something for the boxers when their careers were over. And I don't think it took off. But, I think that, again, it's like these guys, they bring you in, they love you. We believe you're going to be a champion. We're going to make you all this money. Mm-hmm. And they know full well these kids are going to go buy a bunch of cars. But, this, that, and the other. No one tries to rein them in. But saying that as well, though, I don't know who can, who can talk to these kids one-on-one. There's been many have tried and failed. But I do think that there should be some overall kind of a pension and health insurance for these guys, because if you get injured during the fight, then you're covered to a certain degree. Then you're on your own for the rest of it, which I don't think is fair, because they probably only just fought 6 rounds at $1,000 a round and they broke their hand. Mm-hmm. Who's paying for a $10,000, $15,000 surgery,
More likely the state, to be honest with you.
Well, that's it, right? But then you're taking your chances with someone that doesn't know how to fix your hand properly. You want to go to the best, right? Because this is your, livelihood. So I do think that there should be a committee. There should be someone, and all the top guys need to come together and do something for these guys. I don't know how that would happen. Getting them to the table would be very difficult. So yeah, I don't know. I think it would definitely have to be some kind of a government level, a congressional. I think John McCain was involved with the Muhammad Ali thing, right?
Okay, so he had a couple bills that he got to the table. He got them. I was talking to Teddy Atlas about this. He had a couple, and they were ready to get passed. And then a person who was pretty high in Las Vegas squashed the bill. Because Don King, let me say allegedly, Don King, Bob Arum, and another promoter did a lot of business with him there. He said, if you put this through, ain't going. And they contributed a lot to his campaign. Yeah. Then John McCain ran for president, so he dropped out. John McCain was the only one who really came to the table with it. But my thoughts were this: most of the fighters or most of the managers are businessmen. Mm-hmm. So they don't go through. Here's where I'm disappointed in a couple of fighters on the level over there in California. The Oscar De La Hoyas. They were fighters. They know. They know. And
Yeah.
he'll talk about UFC, how they don't pay. I'm not. I would never say that UFC overpays. They don't. But De La Hoya doesn't pay much either to the little guys. That's why everyone's leaving him. Why can't they just have a blanket? And because you've been on this level, you've seen behind the scenes where they would bring them in and say, this is where we're going to help you. You opt in or opt out.
Right.
And if you opt out, you don't get it.
Right.
It would be such I'm not saying it's easy, but it would be such a relief of people. Because if you look at some of these fighters that I see, obviously there's a James, but there's a Riddick Bowe, $25 million fight, and he's struggling. I know another fighter that I had to call was going to have on my podcast, asked me for an exorbitant amount of money to come on, and he's very irrelevant now. Very irrelevant. I don't even think I could have a conversation with him. It'd be difficult. It would be very difficult. And I feel horrible for them because it's a sport I love and it's a sport you love.
Yeah.
Because it's a love-hate relationship. And we've talked about this a million times. You love it. And then even the people that are at the top that were fighters before will stick you for some reason for a couple $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it happened to me. And a guy who just cashed a $4 million check was at our event. He had a guy who won on the show. It was $400. He said, "I'll pay you when I get you." Never paid us. It is a terrible business, but again, it's the love-hate.
You love it, yeah.
You blame the fighter, but then you blame the promoter. Then you blame the fighter, then you blame the promoter. And they're all entertaining us. They all entertain us. And we love it. It's awesome.
I think that for me, I think because I am from where I'm from and the life experiences that I've had have kind of molded me into this. I'm not like a crusader or a superhero, I want to save everyone, but I certainly want to try, and I feel like, again, like if these guys don't necessarily understand money. I mean, some of them have done really, really well and have made some good decisions. But that's like literally a handful. And then there's like a shite load that haven't, right? And they're suffering. I just try to talk to my lads and just say, take it from me, kids. They're like, okay, right. And they respect me. And I just kind of come at them a little different versus sitting them down and, saying, going through it point by point. But I also feel like, because I try to go with my kids, like we go hiking. I call them all my kids, my lads, my boys, whatever. But we go hiking and we do like everyday things. Ronnie Hines, the heavyweight, we go to Target together. And we're in Target and I'm like, buy this because it'll last longer, and get this and you can pair it with this and do that. And we go shopping together and we have a blast. But there's method in my madness. If we're hiking up Griffith Park, and they're all running, I'm huffing and puffing behind them. They're like, okay, well, she got up at 5 a.m. to meet us, like that we respect. And so you earn that respect, and then you can slowly introduce different conversations that hopefully will stick with them. And some of my kids, they've benefited just from me, hanging out, talking to them, whatever. But I do feel like, when fighters become promoters, they always say, I'm not going to do what was done to me. And then they forget about it.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, very.
But let's look forward. Let's look forward because we can't go backwards. Let's look forward. If we look backwards all the time, we drive out of a rearview mirror.
Man.
So we got to look forward. Unfortunately, HBO bailed out of boxing. Showtime bailed out of boxing. It looks like boxing somehow is shaky. But then you come through, and Saudi Arabia now is popping off over there.
Yeah.
And you right now, it seems to be that's the place to go.
Yeah.
You yourself have fighters in there that are pretty much pretty much doing big things.
Yeah.
One of the fighters that we had on the podcast, Zizzo. Great kid,
Yeah.
trained by Buddy McGirt, and he fights he's one of the first Saudi boxers we've had.
Yeah.
How did you hook up there with you went from here in the United States, now you're Saudi. Obviously there's a Buddy McGirt connection there somehow.
So, well, Zizzo trained at the gym that we were all at. I'm pointing because it's down the street here,
California.
But so yeah, right here in Reseda. So Buddy was training at the gym. Zizzo came to the gym, and no management, no trainer, no nothing. He literally just showed up, and I was just like, this kid's gonna get. I just knew, you just know some kid. He shows up in an Audi. Gorgeous Audi. Everybody else is showing up, on like 3 wheels and no brakes. And you could just tell from looking, by looking at him that he was a kid of he was cut from a different cloth, I'll say. Great kid, very dedicated. And I spoke to him. I had a number of meetings with him, and I thought, I'll keep my eye out on him. And I say that to everyone. I'll keep my eye out from a distance, and then they pull me in, and I'm like, damn it, So, but I thought someone's going to get a hold of this boy and just take him for everything. And I had a feeling, I'm like, okay, he's Muslim, he's Saudi. Saudi's the next place. And people weren't really talking about Saudi at that point, because I think Joshua Andy Ruiz 2 was in Saudi. And I think that was their first boxing event. They've had like WWE and things like that, but boxing, that I believe that was the first event. So I kind of had a feeling, and I kind of I'm a forward thinker anyway, and I always talk to people outside of boxing to see what's going on in the world anyway. I'm big on reading the paper and things like that. So I kind of had a feeling. So I took him on. I said, you know what, let me just keep an eye on you. And there was Buddy decided that he would train him. And we just all became a team. And I'd been working for Buddy McGirt anyway, because I was handling him at the time. And all of a sudden, we had a couple of times that Zizzo was to pro debut, and it all fell through, one being in the locker room because the opponent showed up high. And next thing we know, he gets the call for Usyk Joshua 2. And he goes, Rachel, I got the call. We're going to go to Jeddah. And I was like, oh, shit, here we go. Yeah. This is it. And I got there and I looked around, and, there were some of the usual characters in boxing that were already there. And I'm like, damn it, this freaking sucks, because they're going to piss in the well and it's going to be horrible. And but it was a great experience. I had a really good time. And Saudi, they love the boxing and they love MMA. So, yeah, Saudi is the spot. But in saying that, though, it seems right now that they're only into getting the big events. They're not necessarily, I've not seen any kind of a development program to bring these kids up from amateur, and bring them through.
Right.
I'm not sure that that's going to happen anytime soon. But we'll see. I mean, they've had a great run these last couple of months. They've had some fantastic events. They've got a couple of more to come. Zizzo will be on, hopefully, one of them coming up.
Okay.
And we'll see what they do. We'll see.
And that was one of the things I wanted to bring up to you, because, right, you might be able to put on the big shows. WWE puts on WrestleMania, big show. But to develop those stars, okay, you've got to be invested in them.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. HBO was on top of the world when they had those little, when you'd see James Toney training at home and doing and all that stuff, and he's with his family, and you came and invested into a fighter where it didn't matter who they were fighting. Yeah. You were going to buy. Yeah. We need something like that here.
Yeah, we do.
In order to make them go to Saudi, if they're the ones that are paying the money, and they should get the money that they can. I don't know if with everyone leaving the industry as far as networks and stuff, if streaming is the only way to go, then you have to build your presence like Zizzo's doing now. He has one podcast. He's getting out there. He's really, expanding his wings.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be a superstar. And then after boxing, you have something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a different world. What was the biggest difference that you've seen between United States boxing and Saudi Arabia boxing in the events and in the boxing?
Everything, really. It's just Saudi, because Saudi, money is no object. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And they, no matter what it is that they do, it is absolutely top shelf. And I was talking to my friend the other day, and I said, respectfully, but Saudi, it's like they have boxing is the Bergdorf Goodman Christmas catalog, or the Neiman Marcus, and there's like a kid's freaking little mobile freaking Rolls Royce for $15,000, right? And they can have anything that they want, and they put on these great spectacles. We won't see them over here. We're not going to see what Saudi has done over here. And I also feel like promoters and whatnot are running. It's like a gold rush. Everyone's running to Saudi now because there's money, right? And everybody else is getting left behind. So you're looking for your promoter, and he's running off with a bunch of his other kids and going to Saudi to get all that big money, and he's not even thinking about you. Correct. So that's a problem. That is a problem. And I would say if any fighter is going to sign, I would say to them to say to the promoter or the manager, tell me what you have for me in the next 3, 4, 5 years. What do you have? And make them stick to it. If you don't do this, I'm leaving. If you bounce off and go digging for gold somewhere else and leave me behind, I'm leaving. I should be able to leave and go elsewhere. But that's a whole other thing. But America can't compete with Saudi. It's impossible. Even if everybody banded together, there's not enough money. It's just not going to happen.
Okay. So because they're dipping into everything. You're talking all sport.
Yeah.
UFC, boxing. I wouldn't be surprised. Tennis, golf, football. I wouldn't be surprised to me that at some point you got to make a business out of it. I mean, you can't just throw money. I mean, I know you say they have a ton, but man, there's some point where you gotta say, okay.
Yeah. But, well, they have this whole initiative of 2030. So by 2030, Saudi, they want the tourism and they want that business. So that's why they're opening up the country. That's why women don't have to cover their hair. There's all these rules that that they've had for forever that they've lifted. Pretty much everything. I mean, I moved through. I went over there twice on my own. Like I traveled there alone. Really? And I went there twice. But look, I got a TJ on my own, so it was like, whatever. It's Saudi TJ.
Oh, you went to Tijuana?
All the time. All the time.
Wow, that's crazy there.
Yeah,
that's a danger.
It is. But I think, but you know what though? If you don't sense danger, or if you don't move in fear, then you're okay. You just blend in and kind of do your thing. Once I open my mouth and they know I'm British, then that is what puts me aside from the rest. But Saudi, they want the tourism. They're rebranding the country. I mean, they've got some of the best medical tech industry. All kinds of things. They are absolutely brilliant people. They're so incredibly smart, and they're young. These guys are young. All these decision makers now are in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Having come out of Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, wherever it is that they've been, so they're super, super, super smart. I don't think that they want to make a business out of boxing as we know it. I think that it's just going to be during like Riyadh season, which is happening right now. So it's a collection of months, and they have all these different events going on during Riyadh season. I think it starts from, I want to say like November till the end of February, something like that. And those are the cooler months anyway in the country. So you can actually kind of function during the day and in the evening rather than the summer, right?
Yeah. So
you've got to be thinking about, okay, we want people to come over, but they're going to die in this heat because it is unbearable. So they have to strategize as to when are the the most what's the word I'm looking for? Comfortable. Optimum time for them to come, right? So I think that Riyadh season is going to go from what it was, which was already brilliant, to something just beyond now, right? And it'll be boxing, tennis, football, whatever it is that they're going to put on. And they are definitely going to be coming for all of the sports. I'm not going to be surprised if we see lacrosse and, all that kind of stuff over there. It's going to happen, right? They already have horse racing. So, it's just, but the boxing thing, I think it's just a seasonal situation. I don't think they're going to make not like it is over here, like a business out of it. I don't see that happening. Should I put a light on?
Yeah, put a light on there. That's good. There you go. So let me ask you. Zizzo told me a story, and I got to find out the backstory here.
No.
This is a good one. This is a good one. Good.
Okay.
He said before his first fight, it was in front of thousands of people. You brought in Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
How was that connection?
Oh, he's a lovely guy. You got to have him on the show.
I'd love to.
I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
He is absolutely the nicest guy that you will ever meet in your life, right?
Yeah.
So I knew someone that knew Braun. And again, because we were going to Saudi, I kind of did some research as to what they've done over there. And I saw that he went over there and won WWE, like the King's belt or some major
Royal
Rumble or something like that, right? Yeah. And I knew that he was massive in that country. So I was like, and I could put hands on him. I had a direct contact to him. So I thought this would be really good for Zizzo because, the fact that Zizzo was fighting on the Anthony Joshua card was big. He was going to be on TV. That was big. He's in front of his home crowd. That was big. We're in front of the royal family, so it just got bigger. The Crown Prince was at the fight. Like everyone was there. So I realized it was going to be a massive night for Zizzo. That's all I thought of. I didn't care about anybody else.
Right.
And it's like, how do we prepare him for this? Because there's a kid down the street right now that's going to pro debut on Saturday, and he's sweating over selling his tickets. You know what I mean? And like, oh my God, if I sold my tickets, and there's his Zizzo walks straight into Saudi, and he's like, our son. And I thought, Braun Strowman, so we brought him with us, and we were sitting at dinner. There was a big gala dinner the night before the fight, and he said to me, he goes, Rach, he goes, I come from super humble beginnings, and I was watching him he was telling me the story of how he built himself up to where he is now and what he came from. And I was just like, oh, I knew I made the right choice. I knew you were going to be the right person for Zizzo. And we went into the locker room. You got everybody in there, and I'm like, all right, everybody out.
Yeah, he told me.
On your way.
He told me that everybody out. Everybody out.
All out. I tell you what, there were some people that were pissed. They were looking at me like, oh, we want to be there, I said, you got to go. You don't have there's no need for you to be. Buddy stays, Zizzo stays, and Braun Strowman. And he just sat with Zizzo and talked him through it, and just really, it was wonderful. He really got to Zizzo and really spoke to him and kept him calm.
Yep.
For when he was about to walk out and everyone was going to go absolutely batshite crazy.
I know.
And he was perfect. He's like the little boxer whisperer, he's just a really good guy. Yeah.
And when Zizzo puts his hands up like that, that's something that Braun Strowman told him, take it all in, and then now you're focused in, and you're locked in on your fight.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And the second time, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but Zizzo fought in Riyadh. His second fight was in Riyadh, right? So straight away, this kid is, second fight is back in Saudi, he's in Riyadh. He's on the Logan Paul, Tommy Fury card. I hate internet bullshit, but anyway, we were on the card too.
Yeah.
Zizzo got dropped. And he got dropped, and Buddy was like, get up, but I feel like what Braun Strowman and what Buddy McGirt brought to Zizzo just fell all into place right at that moment when Zizzo was faced with, oh shit, I'm on the canvas in front of the prince. What am I going to do? You know, and he got up and he won. It was perfect.
And that's almost kind of, it all just flows in with you, Buddy McGirt. I mean, me talking to Zizzo, how you've been down.
Yeah.
And there's something in you that gets you back up to where you got to be.
Absolutely.
Whether it's that person telling you, that person in your life saying, Rachel, your why. I keep talking about your why because I'm going to go into something else with I want you to do. Your why is to saying, I have to get out of this place. I have to leave. I have to take and make something of myself because I'm getting no help here. Getting no help here. You know, people are ratting my mom out. They're molesting, and you went and did it.
Yeah.
Here it comes full circle with one of your lads, as you call them, your boys. He gets dropped in a position, and it's what you're going to do in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
That's going to make you who you are.
Absolutely. It really is. I mean, I think for me, and I always say, like, if you feel, if life isn't going the way you want it, you don't feel good or whatever it's going to be, in boxing, you're in the ring and you're doing whatever and you get hurt, take a knee rather than get knocked out or thrown in the towel. Take a knee and take a few, take a couple of seconds to think about, that situation that, that's right in front of you. And I always think that, like, I'll always take a knee, but and just to try to regroup. And, I go through struggles every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't cry. I cry all the time. I've cried a lot lately because I just had two of my lads just died in as many months. Yeah, very, very, very sad.
Young kid.
Very young, their whole life ahead of them, and I've kind of been there, done that. So it's like to think about what they're about to miss.
Don't you ever feel like, and it's harder for men than it is women, but don't you ever feel like if they just reached out to the right person?
That's interesting that you say that, because I know and that's why I do make myself available. I'll do a bed check. I will call my guys at night. You good? You good? First thing in the morning, like if I don't hear from someone in a few days, then I'm going to go and knock on your door and find out where you are. Because I think that I've recognized something in them that is going to need that, right? Some people can kind of mask it. And some people kind of show that, right? And I think that if you tap into it, then you got to act on it. If you don't hear from them, make them open the door, make them pick up the phone or whatever it's going to be. But I think that we all go through struggles, and I go through struggles every single day. But it might sound corny, but I kind of owe it to that 10-year-old kid, that 5-year-old kid who I used to be, the 10-year-old kid that whose life was interrupted and ended. My 10-year-old self was ended right there and then in the space of, whatever it was, a few minutes, right? My life was ended and a new one started. So I kind of owe myself to myself. I owe all that I do now to that little girl that was sitting up in the bathroom and the cops were downstairs putting somebody in handcuffs. And that same girl that came home from school and there's an offender back in the house. It's like, what the f is going on? Like, oh my God. So I feel like, when I go through the things that I go through, I got to get it back up and carry on going. Even though some days I don't feel like I just don't feel like it, and then I'm looking over the roof thinking, well, shit, if I jump off and end up in the freaking tree, like I'm going to be impaled with a freaking branch. And then I'm going to be on Fight News with a branch sticking out of my ass. So I'm like, you know what, forget it. That's not the way to go. But, in all seriousness, I love to laugh and whatnot. But I do feel like I feel like I've lived so many lives, and but that particular time, that 10-year-old girl deserves for the girl that came minutes after, that life that was, born after, to be something, you know what I mean? Because then it is kind of like you do get to this point and go, well, what was it all for then, So, that's kind of.
I look back at that, and I'm going to get to your why. I'm going to tell you what your why is. I've known you for a little bit here.
Yeah.
And the fact that at a 10-year-old, you went through what you went through, the fact that you didn't have much of a relationship with your mom, if any, your biological father, no.
Mm-hmm.
Stepfather left. So there's also abandonment issues there.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're able to tell your story,
Mm-hmm.
your why is to tell your story.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to you about this plenty of times. There has to be a time where you have to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's no better place for you to tell your story as a speaker.
Yeah.
Now, you
I
are an
would love
author.
that. Yeah.
You're an author now. But your next why, you have your boxing, you have your boys, your lads. Your next chapter in your why is going to be a speaker. I can see it through you, and I know you can be a speaker because I know that's what you want to do. Because
Mm-hmm.
as much as you've gone through all that stuff,
Yeah.
how much you feel for your boys, your lads, your fighters, your friends, your people, the two that we just lost, there's something special in you. And it comes through this camera, it comes to my audience, and I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Don't
you.
let that why wait another year.
I
We're in
won't.
20 we're in 2024.
Yeah.
We just flipped over that calendar. This is your time to find that why that was missing as a 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now you're on camera and you're accountable. Now you're accountable.
Oh
Now you're accountable
no. Yeah.
for your first speaking engagement.
Yeah.
We just feel, I feel, and everyone here at the podcast had felt that you're missing the opportunity of a lifetime. And we'd be remiss to say you have to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is an incredible, inspiring story, and it's not over by any
Yeah.
means. There's still so much there. The question is going to be, what are you going to do in the next 5 years? Where do you see Rachel Charles in the next 5 years?
Right. Wow, man. You know what? I know what I have to do. Like I can't, I have to take my life and my story to the masses, right? Because I can only tell my kids so many times, my lads so many times. Um, and that's what I want to do, like just Stan Hoffman, the
Oh,
great
that's
late
good.
Stan Hoffman, he goes,
Yeah.
you can just wind Rachel up and just set her off, just like a little toy, just. And I
Mhm.
think that's it for me. My friend Gina and I talk about it all the time. And my friend, I'm still very good friends with all my childhood friends at home. So we all, and they're still there. So they're watching me. My friend Jane, she watches me all the time and working and reading all about me. When I've got pieces out and whatnot, and she's super proud and super excited. And I want to go out there and I want to talk to everyone, and I won't want to stop because I love talking so much. And I've lived so many lives that I'm going to be able to tap into so many people, male, female, young, old, black, white, whatever it's going to be, because I definitely have such a, this big bag of
It's a
life
broad spectrum.
experiences. It's
It's a
massive. Yeah,
it's a
it's
broad
massive.
spectrum. You have,
Yeah,
a race, different races. You have different ethnicities. You've been through
yeah,
Saudi Arabia. You've been through all this other stuff.
yeah,
This side of the world, that side of the world.
yeah.
So nothing can be untouched. You can touch
Nothing can
just
be
about
untouched.
everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm the first woman to manage a Saudi Arabian boxer. Who would have thought that
Yeah.
10-year-old kid that was running around Charmsley Wood would end up making history? I'm not going in the Guinness Book of Records, okay? I'm not going to get an endorsement for it, but I've done it. People are only now going to come after me. I've already been there, done that, which is wonderful for Zizzo and I. And I think that I can go out there and I've done little bits here and there, but I do want to go out on a broader, audience and a broader stage and go and speak to people and let them know, like, this can happen, this can happen, this can happen. But all these great things can happen, you know, and you might not understand or appreciate a certain situation that you're in, but when you're out of it and something amazing has happened and you're able to use what you've gone through to further yourself on this side of the fence, then you understand why you went through it. I'm one of 5 kids. My mom had a kid way later on, but I'm one of 5.
Mhm.
And, I've done all these amazing things. And not to say that my siblings haven't done what they've done. I mean, they've done whatever. But I've had this extraordinary life. I really have had an extraordinary life. I am the illegitimate child of a Black man and a white Jewish woman in the 60s. If we were in America, my dad would be freaking trigger alert, hanging from a tree, right? Right, it would not have been good. I would have been, so
we've come a lot. We've come far since then, but it wouldn't have been good back in the 60s.
It definitely wouldn't have been good in the 60s, and that's probably why he did what he did in England in the 60s, because everyone was doing it. But I mean, I've gone through all these different things, and here I am. I mean, I've raised my own daughter. She's 38. She'll be 39 this year. She's a USC graduate. She's got her own family now. She's got a great career and all these things. I was a single mom. So like I can talk to all these people and say, like, your life isn't over. You might have to kind of park here for a minute, but you can still go off and have a life. You dreamed, there might not be the dreams that you wanted. I wanted to be a backup singer. I could barely. I sing great in the shower. I sing great in the bathroom, like on my own in the mirror. But, I'm not going to be a singer. So something else came along that I am good at. And what I'm good at is connecting with people and speaking and, having a laugh and being there. I'm a strong person. So I've got, good shoulders. And, you can lean on them if you need to and come talk to me. And, whatever it is that you've gone through, I may have gone through something similar, and then we can find that connection and figure it out. That's the way I see it.
And I say that too a lot. I've been through so much in my life, and to connect with someone like you has been amazing for my life.
But, thank you. Likewise.
And I want to ask you one thing. All right. Well, how does Rachel want to be remembered?
Oh gosh. God. I think I maybe would have said before, like, oh, the girl that got out of Chelmsley Wood and went off and did something pretty cool in the world. Still kind of think that way a little bit, but I think I would want to be remembered as someone that's passionate. If I'm passionate about you, if I'm passionate about something, then I'm gonna pour everything that I've got into it. I've given over 20 years of my life to boxing. 20 years, 20 birthdays, Christmases, all of that, like to dating. I don't date. I've got no one, you know what I mean? Because I was so married to boxing. So I feel like I'm a very passionate person. I'm a strong lover of what it is that I'm in love with at the time, So yeah, I think I'm just I would want to be remembered as like, God, that Rachel, man, she was a nutcase, but she was that was the 3 a.m. call, when you need help or something. I think that would be it, Others might say something different, but I think that would be it. Like, Rachel was there when I needed, or whatever that would be,
Well, that is something that you should be proud to be remembered as. I mean, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're that ride and die person that no matter what happens, you're there, and I always say this too with my podcast. I wouldn't want to have someone on here who I wouldn't want to have a cup of coffee in my shop with, because we wouldn't connect. We couldn't.
Yeah.
We connected right away.
Yeah.
The person you are, the person that I think I am. I don't know. I'm just a dumb bagel guy, but I
no,
just,
you're not. Stop it. Stop saying that.
I just do. It's crazy to me that I can talk to people like you, people like Zizzo, Teddy Atlas, Buddy McGirt. It's beyond crazy to me. I'm talking to Kenny Bayless on Thursday. It's amazing. Kenny's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing that I can do that. And from where we came from, just saying, oh, now I could sit here at what time is it? Well, my time's 8:00. You're 4:00.
Right.
And I could sit here and do this. I have a great wife. I have a great life. I have 2 beautiful kids, and I can do this now.
Yeah,
Finally,
that's
I
lovely.
can, and it's something that I love to do. And I would, have people on that I could have a cup of coffee with. That is the most amazing part of my job.
I think that is, my friends and I were talking about that the other day, because we can go anywhere. I've been with the royal family in Saudi Arabia twice. I've been with unsavory characters in TJ more than what, and I've been with politicians. I know people from all walks of life, but could they be in our life? Could they do and be, what I mean? Like, so we can come. And I just feel like if you're humble, if you go into a situation just as it is, take it for what it is, and don't have your hand out or gimme, or what's the angle? How can I work this or do that? You can get along. And I just think that people of certain levels often look at us thinking we're going to go in there with our hands out, or there's a scam, or there's some kind of a thing going on. But then when they do find that we're just not, I don't give it. Why I love you so much, I'm not even going to lie. Everyone needs to hear it right now. I want a bagel. I love bagels. I love onion bagels. So I need a box of bagels.
I thought it was my charming looks and my smile and my peanut butter complexion.
Yeah, that's
I don't
lovely.
know. Maybe that's not
lovely.
it.
Yeah, it's lovely. But the bagels, I already know they're going to be good, right? But no, I think that, if you just go in there and you're just normal, because I don't give a shit. I don't need to live in a palace. I don't need to do, people always go, oh, aren't you happy to meet blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no, I don't give a shit. I don't care who you are, because it's nice. I appreciate the fact that I might have met somebody, but I know Stevie Wonder really well. He sits on my freaking couch. I had the nerve to sing, and he was like, oh shit, stick with your day job, but it's like, I don't want to be a singer, so I'm not going to kiss your ass because I want to be a singer. You're just a normal guy. The people that I know, I've got friends from all walks of life. My friend Jane, who I mentioned earlier on, she's got 2 jobs. She works in a factory. She works in a chip shop at nighttime. I'm so proud of that girl, because she's just working so freaking hard. But then I have, princes and politicians on my phone. So it's like I've got this and this, all these walks of life. But if you just stick to who you are and be honest and just go into it just as you are, you take me as you find me. I'm going to take you as I find you. If you piss me off, then I'm probably going to stab you in the eye with a fork.
Yeah, I get that.
Right? But it's just treat people with decency. It's that simple. You treat people with decency, and that can get you so far. And people always say to me, like, I used to work for this guy, not to go on, but I used to work for this guy, and he offered me a lot of money, and I was like, no, just give me. I don't need all that money. It's like, don't you want to be rich? And I thought about it. I was like, I just want to pay my bills. I just want some food in the cupboard, and I'm good to go. Because I just feel like the essence of who you are is going to take you further than trying to make a quick buck.
And that is very refreshing to have someone in boxing talk like that.
Yeah.
It really is. And I've met a few that are good, but mainly it's a tough business.
It is a tough business.
And I say business because it's business.
It's a business, yeah.
But
I just take care of the boys, keep make sure they're paid, and just carry on going on about your business. I learned long ago, don't chase people. If you stand back and you look in boxing or whatever room you're in, if there's somebody, they're chasing, scurrying, picking up crumbs. I'm not a crumb snatcher. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, never take the crumbs off an empty plate. No.
Yeah,
you deserve the meal.
Absolutely.
I learned that from divorce. Actually, someone told me that. He said, never take the crumbs off that plate. You deserve a meal.
Absolutely.
And if you find someone who's going to give you that meal, stay with that person.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to be your best friend forever and ever and ever, because I want a bagel.
You don't come to the East Coast. You say,
don't worry about it. We're going to make it.
31 degrees here right now. 31. Ooh. Yeah, 31. Believe me, I got these lights on here and I'm still cold. But 31 degrees. And I'm obviously I got to, head out and into this cold weather and start the car before I even get in there. Yeah,
Don't
no,
make me
I mean, but I
cry.
wouldn't want.
I
Listen,
promised myself I wasn't going to cry.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to live in LA though. Let's be
Oh
honest.
yeah.
California
Yeah.
can snap off and go right into the Pacific Ocean. I
Yeah.
wouldn't care. It can
Yeah.
just go. You'd have to get off the island. You'd have to get off the island because
Yeah.
leave it at the island of misfits right over there because that can stay over there.
Exactly.
Just go to
Yeah.
Vegas. Go to Vegas.
Yeah.
It's fine over
Yeah.
there.
Definitely.
But I want to wrap this up now, Rachel. You've been so kind to me. You've got us two great guests. You yourself is great. Is Zizzo the biggest trending interview we've had on this? And
wow.
89% of the viewership was from Saudi.
Oh, look at that.
89%.
That's brilliant.
Saudi.
That's brilliant. That is
And
brilliant. I'm
can tell
happy.
because the captions too, what they tell you on the back end. So they are listening to it. Very popular guy, and we appreciate that. But as we wrap up, do you have any social media that you can give out so that people can follow you, your fighters, and everything else that you got going on?
Yeah, they can follow me at Pitching on Instagram. PITCHINK. That's it.
H.
Pitching.
You said H.
H.
That's hilarious.
H. But yeah, they can
funny.
follow me. You know, I'm findable. You
You
know,
are, and very accessible, and you will get back to him as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That is great. And again, Rachel, I appreciate you coming on to the Zapata Brand podcast. We'll put this out there as soon as we can. But to me and to my brothers and everybody, thank you so much for being the friend that you are and joining us on the podcast.
You are more than welcome. I've had a blast. I could do this all night. See what I mean?
I know.
Oh my God.
Again, I'm on East Coast time. You're
go to bed.
It's hard for me to. I got to get up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's always something.
Best time of morning to wake up. I love it. I love that time of morning.
Because you're there for yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah, exactly. But I've had a blast. Thank you. Let's see if we can outdo Zizzo. Now we're going to have a competition. We're going to see if we can outdo Zizzo.
See. We'll put it on there.
Yeah.
But we'll see how the Saudis react to you.
Yeah. Brilliant. All right, my love. Thank you so much. All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.